All right, there we go. We're on another episode of Reasonably Hyped. It's been a little while, Deo. It's been almost a year. I checked the YouTube.
Yeah,
I,
I believe it.
I didn't see the exact date, but hey, here we are. These are like short form videos. It's not your usual salient points where we go on for hours and hours and hours. This one is just supposed to be short form, maybe 10 minutes or so. Talking about what's hot in video game news. I'm Carlos Macias, and we got Deo Blas, the king of Mid Bay, over there as well. Thank you for joining me, sir.
Yo, Carlos, hope you're doing good. Hope you're enjoying this wonderful playoff basketball season that we're
Oh,
having.
I know, man. It's going on live. See, that's how dedicated we are over here at We Got Comms. That this game is going on literally right now. I'm not checking no announcements. I'm not checking no notifications. I'm just gonna hit the DVR. I know that's blasphemous for you sports fans, but I'm gonna hit the DVR at the very beginning, not knowing nothing. Anyways, but the big thing last week, and we were kind of trying to figure out how this would go, because it's very interesting. But very quickly, Bungie is becoming like the live services kingmaker over there for Sony, man. So much so that they're hitting the top dog. I would say their best developer, actually one of the best developers around the world in the last that makes The Last of Us, Naughty Dog. And Bungie said, hold up. We know you guys are making a Last of Us multiplayer game. We don't know the name, I don't think. Maybe Factions 2 or something like that.
Factions was like the project name, I believe.
Yeah. And I think it was called that's true. I think it was called Factions The Last of Us 1, because remember that had a multiplayer aspect of it.
Yes.
Yeah,
right.
so I maybe Factions 2, right, or whatever it was, but they were definitely, and we've actually spoke on it on Wax. I've definitely, from what I've heard online and through different various quote unquote sources, it was going to be a huge game. It was going to be a big, entirely beautiful game, but multiplayer focus. But now I think Bungie, and as we know, they have the Destiny 2 experience of them having their own live action acumen, so to speak. They went in there and looked at it and was like, this doesn't look right. So basically, the things we have on here. This is Naughty. I'll read some quotes, some headlines from Eurogamer. They said Naughty Dog's The Last of Us multiplayer team reportedly, quote unquote, scaled back after Bungie raised concerns around the project. And also Jeff Grubb, who is one of those sources that I mentioned, one of those, he did say, all I've heard about this game is that it looks like a studio's first live service game, and that Naughty Dog wanted to do things its way, which maybe didn't bode well for Factions. So I think it's one of those things where, and I do have another quote from VGC saying that Bungie is, quote unquote, rigorously vetting upcoming live service games. So that's why, to me, it's kind of like, this is Bungie all of a sudden, that $3 billion or however much it was that Sony, but it wasn't just for first person experience, right? They were thinking, oh, these guys know what live service games are about. So I can kind of see a clash of creative, like, I don't know, like Naughty Dog. I want to trust Naughty Dog that they're like, we're doing everything good for the gamer and making the best experience. And Bungie's like, well, do you want to make money though? I don't know, because I like Bungie too, man, and I know you like Bungie, and the Halo is doing great even after Bungie has exited. But I love Bungie, but I can see how they're like, these MFers charged me $100 for the last season. I was like, so
That's key.
That's key. I think it's one of those things where they're like, we know how to do it, and now we're Sony's like kind of live service games kingmaker over here. But what do you think? I think you've kind of, I was talking to you off Wax, and I'm kind of like, I don't see the side of the internet sometimes you see where it's like the wars and stuff. But what have you been seeing about this? I mean, what are your thoughts? Whichever one you want to start with, Dale.
Well, okay, so first the Sony showcase came out, and I was like, this is looking pretty good for like Bungie or whatever. And then all of a sudden, everyone started accusing Bungie of basically canceling Naughty Dog's project, right? Mm-hmm. Basically,
yeah.
And I was like, where did this come from? And like all the crazy conspiracy theories started coming out because the Sony showcase wasn't as good as people thought it was going to be, or at least didn't live up to the expectations of what people assumed was going to happen. And it was kind of a pipe dream what people were wishing for, but that's neither here nor there. But so the thing is like, yeah, Bungie has been so successful with Destiny for a reason, and it's because they could make a lot of money off of that whole thing. I'm not saying that the game is bad. I've tried Destiny 1 and 2. I think they're great. They handle like...
they handle like a dream. They handle
amazing.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm not too invested into the ecosystem like you and Dalen are and Luis's. So, but like they absolutely know. They have, because they built all their services, their live services up with Destiny 1 and then like continued with Destiny 2 and still have a huge player base until this time after like how many years has Destiny 2 been out? Since 2016, something like that?
It's been out for
Like
a while. It's been out for a while.
for
Yeah.
a while. And like they're consistently hitting like top 10 in the Steam charts in terms of player population. So like they know how to retain like their customer base.
Yeah.
Now that is but that's with only multiplayer side, factors considering.
Or at least
But
how to extract money from whatever user base they have, right?
right.
And we've heard of
satisfies them,
yeah.
like the player base. They're like, yeah, I'm willing to pay, X amount of dollars for.
I'm willing to pay $100 because it's gonna be some sort of quality,
something up there,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side, Naughty Dog is really good at the single player experience, where they give an excellent amount of value for like 40 hours of gameplay, something like that. I mean, they did release, like you said earlier, like Factions 1 for Last of Us Part 1, but like obviously their multiplayer and Uncharted. I think they had it for Uncharted.
Yeah, with Uncharted
right?
too.
Yeah. So they have multiplayer offerings. They never exceeded those heightened levels that their single player games achieve. Or modes.
Well, I think the expectations are different now, Deo. I think the expectations for Sony, because I would think it's Sony choosing Bungie to say, okay, we need to make money off of these games. They cost so much. We love these developers, blah, 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 whatever. But we need to really make money. And I think the expectations are different. The economics of like, we need live service games to work. Like these GaaS games, games as a service, basically, right?
Yeah. If you look at Nintendo, Nintendo obviously they have their own single player games and everything like that. They're really good at churning those out, but they're money makers a lot of the time. If you look at the Nintendo Switch charts, like it's insane. I think they released a report on how many copies of each one of their first party title games sold on the Switch. Astronomical numbers.
I mean, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, by the way, just sold like 12 million over 3 days or something ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's not even like the main component. Like multiplayer isn't even a main component of theirs, but they have like that backlog history of characters and titles and like franchises that just make money all the time.
Yeah.
Sony is in a little different position because like they kind of have to refresh their franchises like every generation. Like they'll have like a hit. Like maybe 2 or 3 new IPs per generation that like really drive the brand forward and make a lot of excitement and money for them. But they have to keep reinventing
and they're not as gross. Let's just call it what it is. They're not as gross as Nintendo, where Nintendo will sell you literally the same game with sprinkle a couple little levels onto it and we'll sell it back to you again. We'll see,
like Nintendo has Pokemon and they'll resell like literally remakes of their old games and they'll do like minimum amount, but people will buy those things like crazy. And so that's like their number one thing. Xbox has Minecraft. Minecraft prints Microsoft so much money, it's insane. But Sony doesn't have that kind of equivalent, at least right now. And I think that's what they're trying to get themselves into with all this Bungie business, and they're listening to them, so they bought them for a reason.
I mean, because I know we've said it on Wax, or at least I've said it on Wax, they've bought Bungie for like to me, I was thinking like for their first person game experience, but it's interesting to think, because you got reports coming out of VGC, Video Games Chronicle, who we cite quite often, are basically saying Bungie is out there looking at every one of Sony's games, and it's like, how does this fit our live services kind of agenda or whatever they're doing? And their portfolio, and you saw it on the showcase, right, where it's like those are a lot of live service games coming out in the next couple years, where they hope, they're like, we can't keep having failures, we can't keep having like these things come out, but it's funny, I would like to see it. I'm sure it's gonna come out. Even like Naughty Dog came out and made a statement, right? It's like, look, we're working on this, we had a few setbacks before the Bungie stuff, before anything else came out. Naughty Dog had already thrown out a statement to the fans, right? It's like, hey, we're working on Factions, we're working on the multiplayer experience, and there was a little asterisk in there, we're working on a new single player experience. I honestly, I don't know, we'll see, but maybe I could predict a little bit here, but I could see Factions becoming a like Bungie or a third tier. Look, you guys handle it, we'll oversee it, we'll supervise it, just let us work on our campaign game. Like, and I would prefer that. I would prefer that if Bungie's like, this is not gonna make you guys money, and they're like, okay, well, I would rather them kind of shift it off. It's gonna take forever for us to get the next single player experience, whether that's Last of Us Part 3, which I think could be potentially what's next. But even if they want to work on a different thing, it'll be like, I would prefer them to do that. Okay, if Bungie or Sony, because see, to me, Bungie and Sony are probably like, in this case, they're probably kind of in line with their thinking, right? We need these games to make money. Live service, games as a service is really what we want. This is, I don't know what it is. I would like to know. This was maybe too good for gamers, because some of this GaaS games as a service games are not necessarily good for us, right? How is it good for me, Deo, for me to pay $100 for a Destiny 2 expansion instead of like, here's $40, it's gonna be a great 5-6 hour great co-op campaign to play with your buddies. Instead, they're like $100, and we're doing week to week chapters of like story bits or whatever, which maybe could have potentially be what like Last of Us was gonna be. They were gonna give us too much or whatever it was without having to pay for it, right? Or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's something to say that like Bungie knows what they're talking about. Even though you'll have, if it was based on the Last of Us franchise, that could draw in a lot of players, but that's not necessarily guaranteed. There are like games as a service are a dime a dozen, especially on like mobile, and like how many games as a services launched last generation that like were around for 6-7 months or whatever like that, and they had to like close just because they're like, we can't, there's not enough population, there's not enough people like buying into the service in order to keep it running. So I mean, maybe Bungie saw a flaw or something that's just like, nope, that's not going to work out in this particular case. So that's why there's like, nope, marathon.
Well, and I think I know we make fun of on Salient Points is that we beef with Jason Schreier, but he does break stuff. And one of the things that he did say is that Bungie detected weaknesses. That was like his the subhead or whatever. He said, I didn't quote him on here, but it's on Bloomberg if you guys want to check it out. But he said Bungie detected weaknesses. So what we don't know what weaknesses, but I honestly think that Naughty Dog was trying to give us a badass game right from the gate, multiplayer, and Bungie said like, that's cool, but that's not gonna make Sony, our new head bosses or our new headmasters or whatever. That's not gonna make them money long term, and that's what they wanted. So I think it's either a reconfiguration. Naughty Dog might figure it out in the end. I kind of hope that they don't. I kind of hope that they're like, all right, you guys do what you want with it. Maybe it's honestly, a Bungie project. Let us work on our next campaign. That's what I would like.
Honestly,
that's what I would.
Honestly, like I was less hyped about like the announcement of a factions type of game versus Bungie announcing Marathon. When they announced Marathon, I was like, holy Moses! Like I am all into that thing. I don't even like extraction shooters or whatever like that. But if Bungie makes the extraction shooter, I'm all over that.
But I love Bungie, but I understand that Sony bought them for a reason, and they marching orders are marching orders, man. Like they bought them for a reason. They're like, this is why we're bringing you in. Who's to say that right from the beginning when they first were buying them, this is what we want you guys to do? And Bungie was like, all right, we'll help you with that. They've been working on Destiny for a good while, and I did throw on here before we kind of log off on this episode, Dale. But they did talk about Marathon. You just mentioned it on the showcase. So Bungie, like they're digging deep. This is a deep cut for Bungie. It's like one of their first few games. We don't need to talk about Oni. I know you threw that out there, but Oni was not that great of a game. They could remake it into a good game potentially. The only thing about Marathon, no campaign, man. So that's going to be strictly a multiplayer game. But hey, it looks beautiful. It looks nice. I'll play with you for a day or 2 days, I guess, and then move on with my life when that drops. I need more campaigns, man. I need more campaigns around here.
No, and the thing is, like that trailer they showed for the new Marathon looks amazing. But however, like this is a totally different Bungie studio that made the OG Marathon back on the Mac. And like the art style is completely different. So I don't even think it's going to be the same vibe. As
it looks pretty though. It does look kind of it does look colorful. Really cool. You got to appreciate that right after a lot of games are kind of bleh looking. Look, so to me, I think the key thing out of all of this, Bungie's a Kingmaker, at least for games as a service for Sony over there. Any final thoughts, Dale, before we kind of move on to the next episode?
No, I think I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I want a new Naughty Dog single player experience. I'm down for that.
All right. Well, hey, that's it, man. Little Naughty Dog versus Bungie action, and I honestly, I want to. I don't know. I don't even think I really wanted a factions. Really, I don't want them to work on a multiplayer game.
Debate that we're talking about.
But I don't really want them to do it. So I hope this gets pushed out, and they're like, whatever, just work on your campaign game. Bungie or someone else can work on factions. It might not be as good, and it sucks that they'll have The Last of Us name on there. Blah blah blah. But whatever, man. Just do your campaign game. It's probably good. It's probably a good thing that Bungie's like, we don't like this. This is not going to make money long term. And I hope Naughty Dog is like, all right, fuck it then. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. All right. Well, that was an episode. Carlos Macias, Deo Blas, the King of Mid-Bay. Thank you for joining us, sir. And we'll stay tuned for another episode tomorrow. So this one goes up, and then there's going to be another one tomorrow. See you guys later.